Welcome to Breaking the Standard, where we are closing the communication and knowledge gap for small businesses and GovCon. I'm Aubrey Gainfort, and today we have very special guest David Blackburn with us. David, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, if you could just introduce yourself for our listeners, that would be great.
Sure. How far do I go back? So I'm Dave Blackburn. I'm the CEO of a company called OrangeSlices. That's the background here. Um, OrangeSlices is a fairly new company. We technically launched in 22, but we launched in full really only this past August. And we're very much focused on, we live kind of at the intersection of competitive intelligence and media. We always say our tagline is, playful name, but serious about democratizing data and really disrupting the GovCon CI sector. What we're trying to do is make information available that previously wasn't available. That's behind paywalls, that's locked behind, when you get there and you go, oh, this looks like a great article, but I can't read it. We're really trying to flip the paradigm on how competitive intelligence is shared and make it widely available, putting it out on social media, amplifying it out there in the world so that whether you're a small company or somebody that's in GovCon or outside of GovCon, you can learn and you can get into the space and compete.
I love
Uh,
that.
so
And
yeah, that's us.
I love that. And if you don't know OrangeSlices, I'm going to link the company's page in the show notes so that you can check it out in your free time, because they've got a ton of really interesting and relevant information on there on what's going on with anything and everything related to GovCon. So you should definitely put it on your reading list if you don't have it already. But today we're going to be talking about Elev8. And when I looked on the site, because I was really interested to learn about this, it says it's the celebration of well-rounded companies and government agencies, which I already just get really excited hearing that very small description. So can you explain the history of Elev8 and what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Elevate was it was, so when I sold my last company and I was deciding what I wanted to do next and wanted to get back in the space, there was a couple things that had always kind of bothered me in the sector, which is, we didn't really celebrate those companies that are out there doing it right. And so and that's really our tagline. Who are those organizations and individuals that are doing it right? Elevate is a program that we launched that is central to who we are at Orange Slices. And it's really intended to shine a light on those organizations from very small to mid-tier to large who are out there, who are, exemplifying various characteristics beyond just winning. Like I appreciate the Inc. 5000. I really appreciate Fast 50 or name the other, hey, we win a lot awards. We wanted to really shine a light on organizations to say, yeah, but are you somebody you want to work with? Are you somebody you want to work for? Because that's what's missing in a lot of the evaluations out there today.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what's required for a company to be featured or considered as part of Elevate?
So it's actually fairly involved. We modeled this after a similar uh, group out there called B Corp. If you've ever heard of a B Corp, is when I say we modeled it just conceptually, which is in this case it's an organization that's focused on highlighting those companies that are environmentally conscious, right? And so we really flipped that around and said, okay, well, what are those characteristics that make up an Elevate company? And then how do we have them prove that? So there's the nomination process that the companies nominate themselves. So it is a self-nomination process for the small businesses where they come in and they have to complete a form stating how they fill in some of the 8 things. We recognize they're small. They may have an advanced program on philanthropy, right? Because they're just too small, or maybe they don't have a big program on inclusivity and diversity. But what are you doing? Give us some real proof points. They had to provide references from employees and partners. So they had to show that they were a good partner, and they had to show that they're good for the employees. They had to prove it with actual references. We had then a panel of individuals from government and industry that actually came in and evaluated the companies. And we had 540 nominations this last time around.
Wow.
And we had 160 companies were chosen. So that for the smalls, that's what you had to do is fill this application. For the larges, you actually have to be nominated by a small. Because of course, any large business around DC could fill this out in full, no problem. They've all got the programs. But
Mhm.
we wanted to hear directly from the companies that actually had to partner with them, that had to work with them. We wanted to hear from their employees. So for a large to get in, they can't nominate themselves. They actually have to get nominated by a small business community member who says, I love working with insert company, McKinsey, who is one of our nominees.
Mhm.
So
I
once they're
love that.
selected, they're in the program. Yeah.
And is it just a year? Is it a year-long program? Like, do you have to reapply or be nominated again like the next year? Or is it like a, once you've been part of Elevate, you're part of Elevate, for however long? Is it something like that, or is it slightly different than that?
No, it's good, really good question. It is a program, so you do have to recommit. You do
Hmm.
not have to be renominated
Okay.
or have to reapply if you're in the program. So the first
Hmm.
time once you're in, because it is like I said, it's a fairly substantial lift to get in. There is part of the requirement is you actually have to attend 2 different sessions we hold throughout the year. And again, this is a new program, so just to be clear, so we have our first event coming up on March 21st. It's going to be at the Woolly Mammoth Theater in DC.
Hmm.
And in this case, we are bringing together, and we haven't even talked about the federal side of this yet, but we're bringing together the federal leaders that are Elevate honorees together with the industry honorees. And we'll be bringing a bunch of great speakers together. And our goal really is to help companies start to talk about these, what does it mean to be an Elevate company? What does it mean to be, and I don't care if they talk about Elevate or not. What does it mean to
Hmm.
be a company in the space that's giving back, that is well-rounded, that's thinking beyond just winning? And so our goal is to bring these community members together with some people from outside of the space who can help to guide the very smalls, the mid tiers, the larges, as they're thinking about how do they build the right way and build that right foundation so that they can, I think about it like this. I mean, Elevate isn't about a place, it's about a journey, and it's about building that foundation and growing. And it's not about, a lot of times there's this, hey, it's soft, right? It's a soft thing to care about some of these things, and we live in a world that's very hyper competitive. But
Hmm.
I believe wholeheartedly that the companies, and I'm a student of this sector, the companies that have a lot of success in this space are the ones that build the foundation right out of the gate. I meet them, and I'm sure you do too. You meet them and you immediately go, they're going somewhere. This company
Hmm.
is building the right culture. They're hiring the right people. And so it is a business decision. It is the right business decision for the long run is to invest in that foundational base of doing it right, no shortcuts. I know you can win that contract in this way. I know you can. I know you just lost a contract, so you feel the need to cut your partner. Don't do it, right?
Hmm.
Find other ways to help them out, work with them, come up with strategies that are more about the long term, being that good GovCon citizen.
I I love this so much. And I agree with you, like, tenfold, that yes, it's important how you have your business structure and how you manage certain things, but behind all of that are the people. And, if you have a good model and, you build something from the ground up with, how you relate to each other, how you support each other, there's a reason why some of the people that I've gotten to meet on both sides of the show and my federal side, why they've never had an issue with people leaving. It's because they have that mentality and attitude of like who they are out in the workforce. And it's not just the we want to win everything group, which that's great. But there are people that I've met along the way that were super small, but they were just amazing when I got to sit down with them and talk to them. And it's like they're just memorable. Like, they're not going to get it today, but they're definitely going to get somewhere, and they're going to build that relationship to be able to get them to where they need to go. So, I love all of this. You did mention that we didn't get to talk about the government side yet. So I'm really interested about the well-rounded government side, because I agree with you, bringing both sides together is crucial. So how does it work from the government agency side to be part of Elevate?
Yeah, so the government agency side is actually nominated by industry or government. We're good with that. In this case, it's focused more on high performing organizations. In fact, we'll be announcing the honorees next week. So
Oh,
I know
okay.
they're in the final stages right now. I've already seen, I think they're in the final few that they're vetting and working through. But yeah, it's very similar in the sense that it's saying, look, are these organizations that are delivering? It's more about high performing teams, right? Who are those ones that are building the right culture right out of the gate, that have the right, that are putting the right people in place and are able to deliver on programs that, with really amazing impact and incredible impact. And again, I would say that's very similar to small businesses. And this too. You meet the leaders, you meet the teams. You're like, how is it, two teams could be the same project and one is just, really thriving and the other one is not. And so that's definitely part of the goal when we have this event is because, obviously the underpinning of all of this is leadership, and it's building it the right way. It's again, not having those shortcuts. It's, hiring the right folks, and then leading the right way. So, but yeah, we'll be announcing that soon. And then the goal is to bring these federal and industry leaders together to learn from each other, because obviously people go back and forth and, share best practices about how do you run those high performing teams, and which we all will all benefit from.
I think having people from both sides in the same room is so crucial to begin with, because a lot of the interactions, I think, and what I've heard from having people on the show is that, you could have a really bad interaction and then that taints, how you, view GovCon or how you interact with, agencies moving forward. But then I think if government officials are able to sit down and explain from a different space, what, is needed and how they can do X, Y, and Z to be able to, proceed without like giving them, insider information or something. But I think that type of feedback is really important. And, it's like a debrief, if you don't win something, but you get a really quality debrief on how you could have, improved and what you can take with you to move forward. I think that would be a very encouraging, place for businesses to be versus you weren't what we wanted. Goodbye. Thank you. Go home and have a nice day. It's just, I love this idea of celebration. I don't think it happens enough. So I really am glad that this started. And I know you said it's new, so I'm going to have to come back with you after this has been going for a while to ask you the changes that you've seen with some of the companies, because I'm really curious to see, like, from the time that they start in the program to 6 months to a year down the line, what the differences might be with them, because I think that will be really interesting. But I do want to ask you, do you think that celebration of companies and agencies is something that can continue to expand? Because I think it's something that's missing and needed in this industry. A lot of times, being in the federal, you hear a lot about what we're not doing right or what's going wrong, or the things that are, shortfalls or shortcomings. And that's primarily what gets focused on, because it's just, the human condition to do that. But do you think that that's a possibility that could be expanded? And then what difference do you think that would make, especially in the GovCon arena?
Oh, I mean, I absolutely do. I mean, and not even specific to this award, but I think there's a thirst. There is an absolute thirst out there from industry, from government, who's trying to learn. And so I think and I still, by the way, I mean, again, we don't hold. This isn't just up to us to help drive these principles. Certainly, our
Right,
goal
right.
is to help ignite the conversation, is to help keep that conversation going.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I can say from our experience, I mean, I can't tell you, not a day goes by that I don't get a call from somebody asking me, when are we opening nominations for Elevate, because they went in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say, at this point, um, all I ever really want out of this is to start the conversation. If you were to say, what are my goals out of this, is I would love for every company to have when they talk about their business strategy at the beginning of the year, I would love for them to sit down and have the same conversation around, are we Elevate? What are we doing here? And, I don't care if they cover the gamut, but be thoughtful about it, define it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
understand, what does it mean? Because one person's what is a good partner is different than another person's what a good partner. But
Mm-hmm.
how do we as a community come together, start to define these things, learn from each other, see the success, right? I think promoting that success of these companies and these agencies that are out there just really making an impact and making it look easy, honestly. I mean, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You meet these companies and these
Mm-hmm.
leaders, and you're like, they just like So so yes, I'd say there's plenty of appetite for this. I think I fully expect we'll at least um, double this year in terms of number of honorees. Um, and and we have some very big plans to expand the program as well to make sure that we are giving these leaders that information so that they can, and really trying to help those smalls when they're creating that foundation, because I think that's what's missing right now
Mm-hmm.
is really helping those organizations understand that, hey, I've been where you are. How can I help you? And how can I give you some guidance so that they're building it the right way?
Well, I'm gonna just put a pin mark in to remind myself to come back either in a year or 6 months so that we can see how much it's changed and then look at where it's going because I love all of this and I think that people are going to get behind it and probably want to either be a part of it or want to know like what they can learn from it even if they can't be part of Elevate just to like start the conversation because I think it's an essential conversation to have that a lot of companies aren't having. So with that, and you've been in this industry for a very long time, is there any advice that you would give specifically to small businesses that currently work in GovCon or want to work in GovCon? What would you say to them?
Yeah, and I'll stay on the Elevate theme just because we're here, right? And so I think a lot of it is, again, identify those companies that, are exceptional. Um, Work with them, work to get to know them. I find them to be the most willing to give help, the most willing to sit down and have coffee, the most willing to teach, and that's absolutely the same on the government side as well. With any delivery, organization, government leaders, I find that they're willing to talk. The ones, and you know who I'm talking about as well, where you're like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
that person seems like they're so busy, but if I ask them for 5 minutes, they're going to give me 5 minutes to give me some thoughts. So I think it's be patient, get in there, there, and make sure you're aligning with those organizations that you want to be like. Um, and because again, in the long run, that's really what's going to pay off is building it the right way. And you've seen it, I've seen it a million times. Those companies that go for the quick wins and they have some success, and then they get out of the small business program and they're like, no, they quickly
Mm-hmm.
fade
Mm-hmm.
because they just didn't have the right foundation. So if you and maybe that's fine, they're rich, that's great. But if you're really trying to build an organization, you're trying to build the right culture. It's really start out of the gate, connect with those folks, surround yourself with the people that are really doing it right, learn from them, and I think in the long run that'll pay off.
I think that's so crucial, and I think that that's just a mic drop moment in itself. But if our listeners want to get in touch with you, they have more questions, they want to learn more about Orange Slices or Elevate and how they can be part of it next year, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So David.Blackburn at OrangeSlices AI is
Mhm.
always a great way to get in touch with me. I should have mentioned, so we did bring on board a new board of directors. They'll be announced here in the next few weeks as
Mhm.
well for Elevate. And Susan Scherer, I don't know if I've mentioned Susan to you in the past. Susan is awesome. She's amazing. She is the president of a company called GovTech Connects.
Hmm.
And Susan has actually agreed to take on the board, the chair of the board for that
Okay.
group. And we have a wonderful board that has already committed to being on it. That'll be helping to guide Elevate as we move forward. But her and if you send me an email, I'll connect you with Susan. I don't think I have
Okay.
her email
Yeah.
address right with that, but she'd be a great person to reach out to because she'll really be driving a lot of this activity in 2024.
Well, once I get her information, I'll put her in there as well so that if you're listening to this and you're dying to know more information about it or want to see where it's going in the future, you can reach out to either David or Susan. And if you've listened to this podcast and you have questions for me or for David, or if there's something that you're dying for me to talk about on the show that I haven't talked about yet, shoot me an email at breakingthestandard@gmail.com and make sure to go follow us on LinkedIn and listen to us on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye.